You're the person everyone turns to for comfort, aren't you? The one who can walk into a room and immediately sense the unspoken pain, and you just know what to do to make things better. You're a natural at guiding people out of the storm, a calm voice in the middle of chaos. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, who heals the healer? This is your story. The story of a gift forged in fire. As a sensitive child, through no fault of your own, you learned to read the emotional wounds of others so well that you were cast in a lifelong role, the wounded healer. You were destined to fix everyone else while your own wounds went unseen. This isn't a story about being broken. It's the story of how your deepest pain became your greatest and most burdensome power. Let's get one thing straight from the start. You weren't too sensitive. You were overexposed. Imagine yourself as a child, living in a home where the emotional weather could change in an instant. Maybe you had to become a caretaker for a parent, soothing their anxieties or acting as a little confidant, way beyond your years. There's a name for this, by the way: parentification. It's when a child is forced to take on the role of a parent. Or maybe you just learn to read every subtle shift in tone, every mood swing in the house, knowing exactly how to act to keep the peace. You became a tiny emotional seismograph with a nervous system fine-tuned to detect the slightest tremor of distress in other people. This hyper-awareness wasn't some personality flaw, it was your survival strategy. In a home with emotional unpredictability or neglect, your brain adapted. You learned that your own safety depended on your ability to manage the feelings of everyone around you. You learned to put out everyone else's fires before you ever figured out how to tend to your own. So, that sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's a finely tuned instrument, created by an environment that demanded it. What looks like being extra emotional in you was really the result of doing extra work. The constant unpaid emotional labor you were never asked to do, but felt you had to. You learned a dangerous lesson, that your worth is tied to how useful you are, and your lovability is connected to how well you can care for others. This role became deeply ingrained and has followed you for the rest of your life. You became the family peacemaker, the friend everyone unloads on, the partner who is always drawn to people who need fixing. And you learned to push your own needs down so far that eventually you could barely hear them anymore. Does any of this sound familiar? If it does, you might just be living out one of the most powerful archetypes described by the psychiatrist Carl Jung, the wounded healer. Jung suggested that for a lot of healers, therapists and caregivers, the deep urge to help others comes directly from their own personal wounds. In his words, it is his own hurt that gives a measure of his power to heal. This idea is ancient, really, with roots in the Greek myth of Chiron. Chiron was a centaur, famous for his wisdom and healing skills. He mentored some of Greek mythology's greatest heroes, but Chiron had one major problem. He suffered from an agonizing, incurable wound from a poisoned arrow. He could heal anyone and everyone, except himself. And that's the central paradox you live as the wounded healer. Your greatest gift, that profound empathy, that gut feeling about what hurts in others, was born from your deepest wound. But when you carry this gift without understanding it, it comes with a heavy, lifelong burden. First, there's the relentless emotional exhaustion. Because your nervous system was wired from childhood to be on high alert for distress, you don't just see others' pain, you absorb it. This leads straight to compassion fatigue and burnout, especially when your own wounds are still open. You might find yourself feeling totally drained after just being around people, unable to tell where their emotions end and yours begin. The second burden is a pattern of attracting people who need to be saved. Because the role of the healer is so deep in your bones, you unconsciously seek out relationships that let you play it out again and again. You become a magnet for partners, friends, and even colleagues who are in constant crisis. This creates incredibly one-sided relationships where you give and give and give and get very little in return. Your self-worth gets dangerously tangled up in your ability to be the rock for everyone else. And finally, the heaviest burden of all is neglecting your own healing. You get so focused on tending to everyone else's garden that you let your own go to ruin. That original wound, the overexposure, the parentification, feeling unseen, is never properly dealt with. Instead, you project it. You try to heal in others what's actually hurting inside you. But as Jung warned, a wound that isn't consciously faced doesn't just disappear. It runs your life from the shadows, making sure the cycle of hurt just keeps on going. So, what's the way out of this? If the wound is the source of the gift, you don't try to get rid of the wound. The goal is to integrate it. The goal is to become a conscious wounded healer. This is where you start turning your pain into your power, but this time on your own terms. It all starts with a huge shift in perspective. Your sensitivity isn't a curse. It's a superpower that your childhood environment built. The wound doesn't have to be your compass forever. It can just be a page in your book of wisdom. The first step is conscious awareness and self-healing. It's time to turn that incredible focus and empathy you give so freely to others back onto yourself. This means acknowledging where it all started. It means looking back with real compassion at the child you were who had to carry way too much. This isn't selfish, it's essential. A healer can't guide people through the dark if they refuse to walk through their own. This might mean facing your pain in therapy, through journaling, or other practices that help you stop unconsciously projecting your hurt onto the people you're trying to help. The second step is mastering the art of boundaries. For you, boundaries can feel unnatural, even mean. After all, you were taught that your value comes from being endlessly available. But boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're filters designed to protect your energy and preserve your gift. Learning to say no, to notice when you're taking on someone else's emotional baggage, and to carve out time for your own rest is non-negotiable. It's the only way to stop your empathy from driving you straight to burnout. For you, self-care isn't a luxury, it's an act of survival. The third, and maybe the most transformative step, is to actively seek reciprocity. Your old pattern is to find people who need fixing. Your conscious path is to build relationships with people who can meet you as an equal, people who can give you the same support you give them. This means breaking a lifelong habit. It means choosing partners and friends not because they're a project, but because they're a peer. It means learning how to receive, how to be vulnerable, and how to let someone else be strong for you for a change. It's about finally understanding that real connection is a two-way street, not a rescue mission. This journey of integration isn't about becoming some perfectly healed person who has no more wounds. That's a fantasy. It's about knowing your wounds so well that they no longer control you. It's about learning to carry your past with wisdom, not as a weight. The wound can be where the light enters you, but only if you're willing to finally look at it. The path of the wounded healer is a profound one. It starts in the fires of childhood, but leads to a place of incredible compassion and insight. Your ability to feel so much isn't a weakness. It's a testament to your resilience. You learned how to navigate treacherous emotional waters and came out with a map that can now guide others. But please remember, that map is also for you. Your life's work isn't just to heal everyone else. It's to finally offer that same incredible healing to yourself. Honor the child you were and embrace the healer you've become. Your greatest burden can truly become your greatest liberation. If this story hit home for you, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comments. Your journey matters, and sharing it might just be what someone else needs to hear to know they aren't alone. Thanks for being here.